Hello and welcome to Raider HQ After Dark. I'm your host Raider. And in this video, this is going to be answering the unanswered questions from the November 1st live stream, part 3. Now, I'd like to thank everyone that's watching the videos, watching, subscribing, ticking the notification bell thingamajigger, and doing all that kind of stuff. Now, you might ask yourself, why am I going to watch questions that are being answered for other people? The reason why I suggest that is because even though this is not your question, the answer to it might help you or might, raise other questions for you that you might want to have asked or answered. So stick around, watch to the end. So let me go ahead and switch over. And it looked like, let me switch this view to where it's a little bit better for this. We left off here with Thomas, I believe. So the VA changed my claim condition and denied it. What's the best way to correct it? Thomas, this is going to be a very hard question out the gate to answer. So it depends on what it is and what they changed it to. So is the change factual? Did it change body systems? Like, did you say sleep disturbances and you meant respiratory disturbances, but they have you down for mental health disturbances? So if it's crossed body systems, then you would do a supplemental claim and you would clarify what you mean. Now, if you claimed like mental health condition and they denied you for depression, that is a normal process for taking something that is general that doesn't have it technically a diagnosis and giving it one. But the best way to correct it is to look at your rating decision, identify the reason why it was denied. What element were you missing or elements? Once you figure that out, then you need to gather new evidence that supports the fact that you can satisfy the missing elements. And that's basically it in a nutshell. A says, best way to organize a BDD claim. Upload the entire STR. I've already answered this in a different video, but upload the entire STR file and reference the diagnosis I'd like to claim, or make separate files per claim with diagnosis, evidence, personal statement. What are the best practices? Should each symptom diagnosis be separate, named file, or one combined STR file? Which is the easiest for the rater? Okay. There's a lot to unpack on this one. When you do a BDD claim, the most important thing is listing every single symptom and or diagnosis on the claim form. That's it. When it comes to your STR file, look, we have an AI algorithm that will do a keyword search for us. We can find, like if you say that you have a diagnosis of X or Y or Z, we'll find it. The computer can find it. It can find chicken scratch handwriting by a dyslexic doctor. It can figure it out. Like, it's actually really good AI on figuring out what words are for keyword searches. So don't try. Don't try to make it easier for the rater. Just make sure that all of the things that you want to have claimed for your BDD are on there, and just make sure of that. And the premise behind this is that the examiner just needs to give you a diagnosis of the thing that you claimed. And if that happens, that's all the rater needs. They don't need to see your STR files. The STR files are literally for the examiner and to make sure that the claim is substantially complete. It is, if you went into the service with the presumption of soundness intact, meaning that you didn't have any disabilities before service, you come in and while in service, you have disabilities that manifest or start, the VA, or well, the military owns those disabilities. So when you file for VA benefits in a BDD claim, it's automatically awarded unless it's acute or transitory in nature. But I hope that that answers that question. JSM, do you think we'll see more private DBQs will get deemed insufficient due to the shutdown and the negative press lately. I can't speak to that because I can't predict those behaviors, but I can tell that they won't hurt. Like my official stance on this is they'll only the negative publicity and whatnot will only hurt the current situation with private DBQs. The more that somebody screams fire in a dark theater, the more it's going to cause chaos. So I think that it's not going to help any. I think it's just going to get worse for private DBQs, to be honest with you. Grandpa Marine. I had my final CMP exam and it was for PTSD/major depressive disorder on Thursday. And then on Friday, it was uploaded and it went from stage 3 to stage 5 overnight. Can you help explain? I already had a DBQ and independent medical opinion. So the part about this that might have had the issue is PTSD. So in order to grant for PTSD, the stressor has to be confirmed. And sometimes what can happen with PTSD specifically is the VSR can order an exam and not do the verification of the stressor, the in-service stressor that caused the veteran to have PTSD. And what happens in that situation is sometimes in order to concede the stressor, we need more information or we need the VSR to concede the stressor. And that's why sometimes it'll get sent back in development. Now, and then sometimes based upon how the stressor was confirmed, if the rater doesn't think that there's enough there, or like let's say that the examiner mischecked a box or what was that? Let's say an examiner mischecked a box or they ended up doing something like saying it's attributed to something that's not true, then we have to clarify back to the examiner. So some of those interactions might be happening. That's why sometimes it'll go from step so and so to step so and so, especially if PTSD is involved. All right. RTC, how is morale at the VBA? Not good. I assume not great, but do staff have a sense we appreciate them and their hard work? I think currently, and this is just speculation, so I have nothing to back this up. I don't have any papers to back this up, but everyone is me focused right now, in my opinion. Now before somebody comes running in and going, I've never been me focused, keep in mind that a lot of people are. A lot of changes happen, so there's a lot less harmony. There's a lot less feeling that your job is secure. I mean, even if you're the best at the job, you have to watch that people are getting walked out the door for pips left and right. And yes, you might be a good boy or good girl today, but all it takes is 1 or 2 bad months for quality where they're bogus quality reviews to put you on the bad kid list. And you've seen how they get treated, how people get treated once they're on the bad kid list. They don't get treated nicely. You're not a good employee anymore. You could work there for 20 years and have a spotless record and have 2 months where you get crap quality in the beginning of the year. And then you're the bad guy at that point in time. So I don't think morale is good, especially having returned from working at home, which is objectively more productive than working in the office 100% of the time. It is objectively, as evidenced by all the data that we've had for literally years, that it is like almost 20% more productive to work from home than it is from so and so. Now, somebody will go in the comments, and I'm sure that they're coming running in, going, well, wait a minute, we've done more claims this year than we've ever done before. Yes, we've done hinky BS claims, and I almost swore there. We've done hinky BS claims that gin up multiple EPs when you should only have one. Higher level reviews, you get two higher level, you get the RO gets 2 points for one claim for a higher level review. So the more they mess up and the more you do higher level reviews, they get twice as many points for those. 930s getting generated. That gives the VA points. It counts as an additional claim. So what I would like to see from the VA is how many solicited end products have we done versus how many artificial we screwed up so badly that we've done 3 times as many claims because we've screwed up 3 times as much. Because those two are not the same thing. And the celebration and the glad handing and all that stuff, I think I look around going, no, that's you shouldn't be thankful about doing 3 times as many claims because there aren't 3 times as many veterans. There aren't 3 times as many solicited claims coming in. There's 3 times as many artificial claims, in my opinion, coming in. Because the VA should only get points for things that the veteran brings up. Because you can have one claim that gets 3 errors on it. And that means that the VA gets points, 4 separate, they get to claim it like they got 4 separate claims in. That's how that works. So you can submit a claim, 526EZ. 3 separate quality errors. You get a quality error for the VSR after the claim has completed or whatever. Actually, VSR errors probably won't cause it to have another EP, but rater errors will. Authorizer errors will, but I'll take that back. VSR errors typically get caught beforehand. So those ones don't. So let's say 3, rather than 4 separate EPs, you'd get 3, potentially up to 3 separate EPs they get credit for when they should have only gotten credit for 1. And then that's only for the claim itself. Then you have supplemental claims, higher level reviews. Higher level reviews, you file 1 claim, you get 2 separate, like they get 2 points for 1 higher level review if like a duty to assist error was found. Because they get points for the EP30 and they get points for the EP040 that gets created. So I don't know. That's just who is that channel that you mentioned? Can you provide a link on the comments after your live? Thank you for your perspective on all of the information. You are appreciated. I don't know what the context is. If you are granted the CHAMP VA, can you wait to implement it for your spouse if recently 100%? Okay, I already answered this one. I just wait. I'd do it now. I would just always do it now. All right. If I get denied for sleep apnea secondary to IVDS with obesity as my intermediate step, can I file it as a primary? I got sleep study done while I was on active duty now using a CPAP. That should have been the... Okay. If you had evidence in service on active duty orders that you had a sleep study and the sleep study showed that you had sleep apnea, then that is the primary theory that you should use because that's an instant grant almost. Because sleep apnea is not like a knee condition to where your knee condition can get better and you could potentially re-injure it after service. So the medical nexus or medical link is more critical for causation and causality. If you were found to have sleep apnea on active duty, that's a more chronic condition that doesn't just get better, right? It doesn't. So I would file a supplemental claim for your sleep apnea and claim it directly. That's how I would go about it. Can hemorrhoids be rated without anemia on lab records? Yes. But a colonoscopy showing internal and external hemorrhoids plus history of bleeding 3 times a month So yes, it can be rated without and you're making me look it up. So hemorrhoids at the 10% level doesn't have anemia as possible or as its thing. Let me try to share my screen real quick. Oh, no, I'm not going to share my screen. Hold on just a second. And through the power of video editing, I am back. So this is the 38 CFR Part 4 for hemorrhoids. So as you can see here, the 10% does not have any kind of anemia associated with it. So the answer is yes, hemorrhoids can be rated without anemia, lab records. But for each one of these, for the 10 and 20%, there's two separate ways that you can get rated. And you can tell by the word or there. I can't point to it on this particular screen because, and you can't see my pointer, but it'll say it's where the per year of thrombosis, semicolon, or, and then you have external hemorrhoids within. You can meet criteria for either side of this or and get 10%. The same is true up above at the 20%. So for this one, for the 20%, one part of it requires you to have anemia. The other part of it says, or have continuously prolapsed internal hemorrhoids with 3 or more episodes per year of thrombosis. That's an or. So you don't need both of the sides of this to matter. You just need one or the other. So the answer to your question is you could get to 10 or 20% for hemorrhoids without having anemia at all. And I hope that that makes sense. So, mental health, Don Cunningham. Mental health claim. First exam diagnosed depression. VA scheduled a records only examination for PTSD. Now a records only examination for depression. Any idea what's going on? Well, yeah. It would depend on if you had it diagnosed in service. If you had it diagnosed in service, then a records only examination might be okay, but they still should send you to a physical examination to have your condition reviewed. So I don't know. They're missing something. Like this might be medical opinion only related. So it can be challenging to uh, you know, dissect this in any kind of meaningful way because somebody could just be doing something, like we could be in need of a random UA at the VA. Sometimes people just order exams for the points. That might have been what happened. So I can't say with any kind of certainty what's going on based upon the information that you gave me. All right, Thomas. Does VA ever rate deferred claims? Yes, they have to. So it's kind of a asked and answered type situation. If a rater defers something, then in order to close the end product, the actual EP, to close the claim itself, everything that is accounted for in all the rating decisions must be accounted for completely. So they can, and that's how the RO gets their points, is whenever the final thing that was asked for in that claim has been rated, good or bad. It's just been finally rated, and then the authorizer will close that claim. So yes, they do get rated, and they should be rated. It can just take a really long time. Sometimes you can have it to where the rater made an error, and they shouldn't have deferred the claim backwards for something. It happens sometimes, and it'll just mystically go away because they should have never have done it. But yeah, for the most part, everything that gets deferred should get rated. Yes. Major banks. Why do the VA allow claims to be denied and then a higher level review will find a duty to assist error? Why isn't those duty to assist errors found initially? So that's a really good question, Major Banks. So for this one, they can have a difference of opinion. So this is the part that makes the job maddening. just truly maddening, um, is that the VSR can say, like, let's use Tara for example. The VSR can say, "Hey, look, there's Tara here. I see this Tara. It's in his record, so and so and so and so. I'm going to get an exam for that." Or let's say, actually, let me reverse that. Let me say that the VSR did not find that there was Tara and they did not get an exam for it. And the rater didn't really check. They just kind of top sheet and said, "Okay, we got an exam. We got it back. We're not granting anything. Cool." And then it goes in and it's denied, right? They did direct, secondary, but they forgot Tara. The authorizer doesn't catch it because they don't know how to work claims typically. So they didn't catch that it was missing. You do a higher level review, and the DRO is just looking for, okay, this condition can have four different things that could be granted. It could be granted four different ways: direct, secondary, Tara, and let's say MUCME. And their job is to look for the inconsistencies of if everything should have been applied. And unfortunately, why wasn't it done to begin with can happen because there's a disagreement as to whether or not the evidence satisfies that all the elements are met for that theory. There can be a disagreement with like exposures. What one person considers an exposure, another person might disagree and say, no, they don't have any exposures. So it can come down to that level of it's just a difference of opinion. Raters do it all the time to where the examiners, hold on. Sorry, I had a major dog bark fest there, so I had to pause the video. So, I forgot what I was saying, but anyway, why does this happen? So it can happen because of just differences of opinion. There's a lot of different like scopes of practice. Oh no, I was talking about how raters, this happens to raters all the time. So the VSR will not agree that there's enough evidence for an exam because they have a completely different set of evidence that they require to get an exam versus a rater who can actually use less evidence in order to get an exam for no reason. It's just different scopes of practice. So that's why a lot of the time. Now, that's the legitimacy of it. That's whenever everybody's, good at their job and they just have differences of opinion. The flip side of that is you've got lazy people and you've got people who have not been trained well. So you also have unique theories for service connection, like 38 CFR 3.309A for the chronic disabilities, that is very drastically misunderstood. People do not understand how that works. So a lot of the times the duty to assist errors can be due to a lack of training. So I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry that I got distracted halfway through it, but these dogs are bad today. Okay. Okay, so Wanderer, are IDS VA claims currently being processed, rated, or are they experiencing delays? No, they're being processed. I mean, they're being processed like everything else. So if there's delays, it's just individual delays or delays at the RO, but that classification of claim, to the best of my knowledge, is not being specifically targeted. Just see, fam. New here. First time live viewer. So I watched the video about referencing the M21-1 and 38 CFR opposed to case law for higher level review and the differences, etc. So for a higher level review, hypothetically, if basically all the CMP examiners denial rationale can be picked apart, is deemed inadequate. One, would 5 pages of pointing at each part of the rationale and pointing at the M21 be too much to submit? Jesse, I'm going to help you out here. Okay. So, and we'll probably end it Jesse today just because this is probably going to take a few. And it's not a bad question. That's a really good question. I like Jesse's question. So I'm not picking on Jesse in any way, shape, or form. The higher level review is meant to see if the VSR, the rater, or the authorizer, promulgator, or authorizer, whether or not they followed the M21-1 manual. Okay. So I'm going to take what you said and I'm going to translate it into an effective higher level review. If you are able to show that the VSR did not send all your evidence to the examiner, that would be a duty to assist error. Higher level review, DROs can deal with that. If you were able to show that upon review of the examination, that the examination was clearly and unmistakably erroneous in that the examiner didn't fill out all of the DBQ, that would be a quality error for the rater because they did not determine that the examination that they received and they adjudicated on is not substantially complete. So that rating decision that they did would be premature. That what they should have done is they should have referred back and said, "Hey, look, you did not fill this out all the way." Here's another one. Let's say that the examiner puts in there that, like you have X, Y, and Z, or you do not have X, Y, and Z. But clearly in the medical records, it shows that you have X, Y, and Z, that you've had X, Y, and Z for a while. And the examiner did not provide a rationale as to why they disagree that you have X, Y, and Z, as evidenced by the fact that your treatment records show that you have X, Y, and Z. So that would be an insufficient examination because there's no medical rationale to overturn the established evidence that is on file. Now, you cannot do a higher level review because you disagree with the examiner's conclusion. I know it sucks, but you can't. That is within their whole wheelhouse. You can go in there with all the buddy statements, all the evidence, all the so and so, right? As long as their opinion falls loosely within the requirements of the M21-1, and their rationale could be completely garbage. But if it makes sense and it checks the boxes to the point where it's not conflicting with itself, like the veteran can't walk, and that's not true, right? Or if they say the veteran can walk, but you're missing your legs, type thing. And like, if it's factually not true, then yes, you could pick that apart. But you have to have objective evidence to show, hey, look, he said that I don't have migraines, but I have a diagnosis of it right here. Like that would be how you would have to pick it apart. But their conclusion that they came to, the DRO has no power over that because they have a medical license. The DRO does not have a medical license to challenge them medically on their opinion. So, sorry, stop whining. But that's the problem that you're going to run up against. And you're probably, if you do a higher level review, you're not going to have a favorable outcome because the DRO can't, they have to call a policy error. Like somebody didn't follow a policy on the VBA side. The vendor's outside of that loop. Like the only way that we can kind of encroach upon the examiner is if the rater didn't catch a policy issue in the M21 that would cause them to have to defer it back and have the examiner correct something, as in, i.e., they didn't complete the whole form. Like that would be a policy issue. Hold on, and I'm back. So, yeah, I don't mean to, I don't mean to, not be negative, but you have to be very strategic and you have to quote, the rater didn't follow this because this was clearly not done, is basically how you're going to have to do it. Because Like I said, the DRO has no power over their rationale. I can disagree with them all day. And I do typically, right? Do you know how frustrating it is to come across like I have 10 claims for sleep apnea caused by Terra, the exact same Terra, the exact same. And I'll have 5 of them that say, yes, it's granted. It's clearly associated with the other thing. And then I have 5 that say, no, there's no physical association between that Terra and sleep apnea. But we have to take what they say at face value, even though it conflicts with the logic of the overarching scope of, can sleep apnea be caused by Terra? Yes and no at the exact same time. It's Schrodinger's cat of this nonsense. But higher level reviews are explicitly for the purpose of saying the rater didn't follow their own process. The VSR didn't follow their own process. The authorizer didn't follow their own process. That's what a higher level review is for. And it has little to nothing to do with the examiner's medical opinion, because a lot of the time I have nurse practitioners that are overturning specialists in their own field. They'll go, no, that has nothing to do with it. That neurologist doesn't know what they're talking about. And you can tell. I can't assign no probative value to it because the VA, you have to take what they say at face value. So I don't know. But anyway, that's about all I got for that one. Sorry, it's probably, Jesse, you're probably not liking the answer, and I get it. I don't like the answer to it. And I'm going to finish up here with just MPL. If numbness and tingling in digits 4 out of 5, is this from shoulder or neck injury? 4 out of 5. It could be. So it could be. I don't think it would be a shoulder injury per se, unless you had surgery or some kind of like compound fracture where it could have damaged the nerves. But typically, it's due to the neck. It could also be due to chemicals. It could be due to a disease process like diabetes. I mean, there's a lot of etiology that could, a lot of causes that could be associated with those symptoms. But I mean, I would start with the neck. If you have diabetes, I might start there. But yeah, it's possible. It's possible it could be the shoulder under certain circumstances, but it's more likely due to the neck. And that's about all I got for you guys today. I'm sorry, it's just dog barking craziness today, and I do apologize. But that's about all I got for you on this one. Like I said, we're going to be doing TBI this week. I've already got my Thanksgiving video put out. I will be doing a live stream on Thanksgiving. If nobody shows up, that's fine. You don't have to, but it's for those that, maybe they don't have family or something like that. Then they can just come hang out. And we can talk about the good old days. We can talk about, in service, the shenanigans of basic training and whatnot. We can just do all that. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Talk to you later. Raider out.